This is Caroline.
Maritess.
Neil.
And this is Laura. Welcome to Med Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast.
This podcast is an engaging look at the lives of and surrounding medical surgical nurses.
We're proud Med Surg nurses, just like you, sharing our stories, insights, and experiences to support you in your nursing journey.
Our topic today is a very important one: how to deal with nurse bullying. But before we get started, let's see what's new with everyone. Maritess, why don't you start us off?
I shared last episode about the hackathon that I won in a conference. So our team asked me to host our first hackathon in our team. So it was successful. It was great. I had all the same tools that I had, but this time the challenges that I used was not made up challenges, but specific challenges that we currently have in our department. So not only that we have tackled the problems that we currently have, but also thinking out of the box and helping everyone use their skills as educators to increase their knowledge and help our colleagues. Another update that I wanted to share, aside from that hackathon, is that I'm also getting into crocheting. My daughter, who is so artsy craftsy, I share with you, they do this jewelry, they make their own jewelry. So when we went to Georgia for the conference, it was really cold and I didn't know she made crocheted beanies for her siblings. During the conference, they were just going around. They actually traveled with me. And I said, "Where did you buy that?" "No, I didn't buy that, Mom. I created that. I made that for them." And I said, "You need to make one for me." And she said, "No, I'm going to teach you how to do it." I know how to crochet, but not with the designs, because she made these heart designs and so nice stuff. So that's my new hobby for now. Let's see how long that will last.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I agree. We'll find out. I'll show you one day what I can create, maybe just a coaster.
Absolutely, yeah. Those little hooks are far too small for me to, and I don't have the patience for things like that. But for anyone that can do that, I admire the handiwork, because it takes a lot of time and effort to make something.
Super patient. I agree with you, Caroline.
Cool. Very cool.
How about you, Neil? What's new?
Actually, some good news lately. The other day, I got floated to a floor and they had nobody with experience on the floors. A lot of people pulled from other floors, and I haven't been an assistant nurse manager. I just know what needed to be done for the night. And so I took charge of the charge nurse position just randomly, because it's what you do, I guess, when you have just natural leader skills. And it was actually very refreshing. The management from that floor sent me some cheers cards. All of our hospitals have internal little rewards, F5s and stuff like that. It was actually kind of nice to be recognized for just doing what's right by the floor. They needed a senior person to take charge for that night. On top of that, I'm super proud of my daughter that goes to App State here in North Carolina. And she's also in the Army National Guard and ROTC. And she went to a conference in DC. She did the drills for her battalion. And out of 20-something schools that were there, she won second place for calling drills for her battalion. So I was very, very proud of her. So first of all, I'll go participate and to play second place. And then some little good news. And then I'm actually super excited, having just turned 49 the other week.
It was your birthday?
Yeah, last week I had some friends at a local little food hall. They have this great food hall in Winston-Salem called Roar. And I had some friends in a little VIP lounge on a Wednesday night. And we did boutique bowling. It's kind of like duckbill bowling, if everyone's done that. Smaller pins, smaller ball. Just had a blast, just enjoyed some time with some really close people. If you have 4 or 5 good friends at the age of almost 50, you're in a blessed place. So,
well, happy birthday. Then I'll try my best to make a beanie. Then maybe that's a Christmas gift and a birthday gift. Yeah, I have many more months left to do the beanie.
My mother's birthday is March 24th. So Mom is turning the big 75 and have not been to New York, honestly, since COVID, just with the high occurrence up there. So it's been about 3.5, 4 years since I've been to New York. So it's going to be fun to visit my hometown and see how it's different. But then Mom's 75, so that doesn't come often. And God bless Mom, she is just on cardism and nothing else. So the fact that she's that age and has that little medical complications, I'm so grateful every day for that. Sounds crazy, but I haven't been on a plane in so long to go somewhere like that. I feel like a kid again, taking my first plane ride. Laura, what's going on with you? What's new and exciting over there in Texas?
My main update revolves around my daughter as well. She is a senior in college and has very, very, very high anxiety. I think I've shared that with this group before. And she's had a little bit of a crisis here lately. So we have been focusing on her mental health and her not putting so much pressure on herself. And we kind of had to have her drop a few things and kind of recollect herself. So we are working through with family counseling and counseling for herself. And it's just a good reminder to everybody to check in on your children or your loved ones that seem like they have it all together. This masking is real and they can really hide when things go downhill. So we were all caught by surprise, but thankfully she reached out when she needed to reach out, and we all stepped in and kind of put things on hold to focus on her and help get her back on her feet. So we're in the middle of that journey right now and happy to say that things are moving in the right direction. Caroline, anything with you?
Well, thank you certainly for sharing that story. My younger daughter has been in a similar situation. She graduated college just about a year ago now and has yet to find the dream job. I mean, who really does find that dream job fresh out of college? She wasn't really going to be able to utilize the degree because of something that happened senior year of high school. And she was working at a counseling center. And so listening to everyone's stories was just an emotional trigger for the trauma that she had been through. So she stepped away from that. She moved into a second job. That didn't work out. So now she's actually enrolling in cosmetology school, which is what she should have done years ago, because her streak of creativity, I just don't know where it comes from. So I think somewhere along the way, she thought that it wasn't a worthy career. So she's enrolling in cosmetology school, and we're going to see where that takes her. But you're right in what you say. Masking is very real. It absolutely is. So that, of course, moves us in very nicely to our topic, how to deal with nurse bullying. And so since it's my topic, I'll share a little bit of insight and background. And when we first hear the word bullying, we think about fisticuffs, punching somebody in the face kind of thing. There are many days when I want to do that with some people, you understand. But healthcare has evolved over the years from a caring profession to one where we are sometimes not that nice to each other. And our patients are not that nice to us either. And it's created what we call a hostile work environment. What does that mean? It means that people spend more time dragging people down than managing them up. We have a little sign up in one of our bathrooms. If you can be anything in this world or in this workplace, be kind. Just be kind. Be nice. I don't know, was it Pooh Bear or Piglet? One of them said, if you can't say anything nice, don't say anything at all. And I really think sometimes we have to stop and remind ourselves and our patients of that. I'm just currently in an environment where there's more hate going on or fighting going on or antagonistic behavior going on than there is nurturing, managing people up and wanting an overall peaceful, happy environment. My older daughter is working in healthcare consulting, and she's been doing some work with companies about a healthy workforce. And again, when I hear the word healthy, I'm thinking of get your BMI down, get your cholesterol numbers. But a healthy workforce in this context has us thinking about how do we create an environment where we want to come to work, we actually want to engage in conversation, and how do we have our patients understand everything that we're going through to help them? Patients come in kicking and fighting. They don't want to be admitted to hospital. They're hostile. They're angry. They're not getting answers from the doctors. And so put all that together, and it just doesn't make a nice environment to be in. What do you think, guys?
I love the saying you referred to. I think of The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, no relation, unfortunately. He says, it's nice to be important, but more important to be nice.
Exactly.
My daughter contacted me a while ago, and she started doing some online therapy at school. And I always just think of, you never know what's going on for patients, let alone nurse to nurse.
Yes, exactly.
You know, we sit there and we joke like, that's your best nurse friend. You know, I'll hold the crack, you wipe it kind of jokes, but yet we'll say some things and not realize they might have just walked into that door coming from an abusive relationship the loss of a child, the diagnosis of cancer for a family member. When they said my dog had a little mast cell tumor, like I just was out of it that day, and someone could have just looked at me the wrong way and I probably would have lost it. And as healthcare workers, we need to remember we are the example. I do think in reflection from some of my psychology background, a lot of times bullying comes from insecurity. There's a great book, I forget the author, called Hurt People, Hurt People. And so people just literally push it forward of their pain.
That was my line, Neil. I was just going to say that.
About the book or the actual, just line?
Yeah, that's what I always say. Whenever somebody is mean to me, I always remember somebody said that to me one time. Hurt people, hurt people.
Yeah, this isn't about me. It's about them. And we're the easy targets because guess what? We're not going to lash out probably right back at them. So it's easy to come and do it. So when it comes to nurse bullying, I think we need to realize we were all that person one day, whether it's with the naive question or just that newness in our eyes. And so it's just to be kind to each other.
Someone said to me once, a patient, it was along the lines of, they told me I would have post-operative pain. This incision would hurt, but nothing hurt more than the words that the doctor used when he told me I had stage 3 cancer and a limited time to live. I was like, goodness gracious, and made me focus again about moving perhaps from the physical bullying to the emotional and verbal abuse that we surely give out as nurses, if we're being perfectly honest. And boy, oh boy, the families and patients give that back. And they give it back because they've just been given a terrible diagnosis or prognosis. They're scared, they don't understand, and it just escalates behavior, and boom, we have this huge problem. Statistically speaking, in the last 6 months, 48% of registered nurses, almost half of the nurses out there, admit to being bullied in the workplace. More, I think, verbally than physically, I hope, but 35% of them reporting that this happens on a daily basis. And one of the ways that I kind of unearth this in the area that I'm working currently is by one-on-one meetings. The recommendation from leadership is that I meet with my staff one-on-one every month. And that's when I hear the stories about things that I don't see. And it all comes down to having too much to do and not enough time, no one really caring about each other, and people dealing with things in their personal life that they choose not to share, or when they do, those feelings are minimized. And so it just brings all this hostility and tension to the surface. And I don't know what the solution to this is.
I think a lot of it can be boiled down to really a lack of communication or ineffective communication and, not seeing situations from the other side. I can remember feeling bullied as a new nurse, like if I had to transfer a patient to another unit or receive a patient from another unit. And I would hear on the back end that the patient wasn't prepared to go. Well, I didn't have anything to do with preparing the patient to go. Let's say I just walked on shift 30 minutes ago and now they're transferring to another unit. So I don't have all of the answers that I should have had before I would transfer a patient. But I would get attitude on the phone or an angry call back a little bit later. And it was nothing having to do with what I did, but it was the perception of that nurse on the other end of that phone. And so I felt like I did something wrong, and it would really blow the rest of my day because I felt like I wasn't doing my job, when really it didn't have anything to do with anything that I did, but I felt belittled, and it gave me kind of a chip on my shoulder whenever I would talk to that nurse again. I worked at a very small hospital. I was going to have to interact with this nurse again.
I'm sorry that you experienced it, but the word you just used there speaks volumes, and that's perception. And that's one of the examples I try and use whenever I'm speaking with someone who is telling me they're being verbally bullied. The perception in which we come across, whether it's good or bad, it really takes a moment to be mindful of a conversation and kind of almost do a little bit of role play, act it out again and say, okay, if you're coming in now from the outside looking in, what is the perception of this conversation that you've just had? And it takes a lot of courage sometimes to step outside your comfort zone and say, okay, there's verbal abuse, there's toxicity, there's a hostile environment. What can we do to improve upon this? And it starts and ends always, in my mind, with effective communication, whatever and however that may be.
I've been listening and I'm like, I have so much to share. I used to be a bully. when you were young and you're arrogant, you feel like you know everything. When I was a younger nurse, I was a clinical instructor in a faculty. There was one student nurse and we had a test. So I was a faculty and I'm proctoring the test. I saw her cheating. I told her, you're cheating. I saw you cheating. You have something on your lap. And she said, no, ma'am, I'm not cheating. I'm not. And I said, there's a paper right there. So I just grabbed the paper and I said, you're not allowed to complete your test. You have to leave. And you know what? You want to be a nurse? You will never be a good nurse. It was her last year, but she never graduated nursing. I asked people around. I really wanted to help her. So there was one brave student who actually said, you don't remember this person, miss? And I said, no, I do not. What do you mean? And she said, that was the student that you actually grabbed the paper. You embarrassed her in front of the class. And I said, I don't remember. What I found out was she was depressed. I should have pulled this person aside. I know that this is a wrong thing. And so I had to really work with her. I even asked my husband, my family, I said, am I mean? Am I really a bully? And they said, maybe you are. I said, I need to change myself. I really worked hard to transform myself. It's so important to have that self-awareness, to pause and to really think, what are you trying to say? Are you hurting other people? Incivility, it's such a huge word. And when you're rude and discourteous, sometimes people perceive things differently. We speak different languages too. Sometimes, the way I speak probably is not respectful. I reacted out of my emotions. And so I really worked hard on that. That was 18 years ago. Moving forward to that, I had personal experience. I was bullied. AMSN did a advocacy statement, and they said that bullying is abusive, intimidating, malicious, insulting behavior or abuse of power. There is a power involved. And so it takes a lot of effort to really be aware of who you are as a person, because that's where it starts. You really know if you're hurting others or not. Are you aware of your communication skills, your verbal, nonverbal communication skills? Are you aware of your authentic self?
You're being extremely transparent, and to hear you share your story, from what I know of you, I would not put you as someone who bullied and intimidated people. What I have come to learn is most people are very uncomfortable in dealing with this. And so rather than speaking to someone directly, which in my mind is the most effective way of nipping this in the bud, they come to me as their leader and want me to sort it all out. Just do something about it and sort it all out. And I can't even begin to do that unless I know the whole story and the big picture. We had a coworker several months ago now, a fairly new hire, coming into a floor where there's a lot of established relationships, nurse to nurse with the doctor team. And this particular coworker is very quiet, very insular, would do her job and then go, in the eyes of some, hiding in the back. She's on the computer all the time. She's on her phone all the time. Why are you letting her get away with this? So I had to have a conversation and say, this is the perception. This is what your coworkers are seeing. This is what I'm seeing to a certain extent. Very long story short, after she broke down in tears, told me that she was in the back because she was experiencing a huge crisis in her personal life. She was taking care of her home life and was on her phone because she was back and forth with doctors' visits and appointments and following up. And she said, I don't feel like I had to share that or justify that with anyone. And I said, not necessarily. However, the perception is you're sitting back there and wanting to work and not wanting to be part of the team. So it's certainly an in-depth subject for sure. Maritess, she said you could talk and talk about it. Me too. The sad thing is, because we're seeing so much more of it, I think that we all have to take a moment and look inwards and think about how we're perceived. Just awareness that people can be very hurt with words. Maya Angelou has that expression, is another one. People will never forget how you made them feel.
You said something earlier about people don't speak up. They don't say anything. They allow that abusive behavior to continue. So whether that's a coworker or a physician even, or a patient or whatever, but you've got to speak up and you've got to say something, because if they're doing it to you, they may be doing it to somebody else. And nothing is going to change if you sit there and just continue to endure it. There's nothing wrong in speaking up as an ally, speaking up even for somebody else. If you witness it, somebody's got to say something about it. Otherwise, it's just going to continue. We are the only ones that have the power to change it. It can be us, or we can help our coworkers speak up.
Yeah, absolutely. Several years ago, a lot of organizations got very much into scripting, right words at the right time for the right situation. And for some of us, that it wasn't embraced perhaps as it could have been, because people felt like they were having words put in their mouth. But for someone who does find this topic difficult, it gives them the structure to form a sentence and make it their own and achieve that effective communication and empower them to speak up, like you just said.
I'm not sure if you guys have heard the nursing incivility scale. So the nursing incivility scale was created to kind of define what incivility is and what bullying is. And it's divided into whether they felt bullied by specific individuals, by interactions with other nurses, with their supervisors, physicians, patients, families, and visitors. My husband, who works in the ED, he's a registered nurse in the ED. He gets verbal abuse all the time. And I always ask him, how do you deal with it? And he said, same thing. I don't take it personally. So I have a mnemonic for that. It's Q-tip. Quit taking it personally. It's not about you. It's about other people. It's how you react really is what matters. So quit taking it personally. Take a Q-tip all the time.
I want to say it was Henry Ford. He would just say what you mean, but don't be mean when you say it. And just recently in my class, reading about microaggressions, it's these little slights, just those little looks you might give as an instructor, or those little snide comments you might give when you're in a power position of even being a charge nurse. Like, oh, I can't give that admission to them. You just made that nurse go down their white rabbit hole of insecurities without even realizing it.
That's right. That's right.
And it is so much our language and what we're communicating.
Yeah.
And like I said, it really opened my eyes recently reading about it, because I kind of heard all this little chatter about it. I'm like, microaggression. And then you realize we kind of do it a lot. We get our little snide comments. And it's just taking a moment and addressing the problem as opposed to the person.
Yeah. Definitely some wonderful comments and thoughts. And believe it or not, we're out of time once again. So before we finish up here, let's quickly summarize what we have learned from this conversation. Bottom line, just be kind, be nice. You never know of the unspoken struggles of your coworkers and their patients. As nurses, we're the examples of kindness. We need to remember that every day, every night. Always remember, when dealing with bullies, hurt people. And learn how to appropriately speak up for yourself and identify the perceptions in any given situation. If you're perceived as a bully, embrace self-awareness, gather feedback, and work on your communication skills. And take a Q-tip. Quit taking it personally. Thanks for joining us on this episode, and we will see you next time.
We look forward to connecting with you on the next episode of Med Surg Moments, the AMSN podcast. In the meantime, we want to hear from you. Send us your questions, topic ideas, and feedback via our official Med Surg Moments email address, amsnpod@amsn.org. That's amsnpod@amsn.org.
I'd also like to remind you to become a member at AMSN or renew your membership at www.amsn.org. You receive lots of cool benefits and perks, such as discounted pricing on the annual convention and continuing education.
We encourage you to help us spread the word and subscribe to the Med Surg Moments podcast via your smartphone podcast app to receive notifications of future episodes. Please be sure to leave us a review and recommend Med Surg Moments wherever you get your podcasts to help us reach even more listeners.
I invite you to join the conversation by sharing your ideas and questions on AMSN's Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or Twitter pages. And don't forget to add hashtag MedSurgMoments to your posts. Simply enter AMSN in the search field on any of these social media platforms to connect with us.
The content within the Med Surg Moments podcast represents the views, thoughts, and opinions of the co-hosts and may not necessarily reflect the views, thoughts, and opinions of the Academy of Medical Surgical Nurses. Until next time, I'm Caroline.
Laura.
Neil.
And this is Maritess. And always remember, Med Surg Moments is a moment in our lives, a moment in our Med Surg careers that makes a huge difference.